Simple yet powerful truths from the Buddha that will change your life. Let me tell you a story. One quiet evening, a young man, successful by every standard, walked up the rocky path of a forest monastery. His shoes were polished. His suit, still sharp from meetings earlier that day. But his eyes, they carried the heaviness of 1,000 sleepless nights. The monk greeted him with a gentle smile and offered him a seat on the wooden porch. Without asking a word, the monk poured him a cup of hot tea. The young man immediately began talking about his work, his wealth, his stress, his anxiety, his relationships, his insomnia. On and on he went, like a river swollen from too much rain. The monk kept pouring and pouring until the tea overflowed, spilling over the cup and burning the young man's hand. "What are you doing?" the man cried out. The monk looked into his eyes and said gently, "This is your mind. So full, nothing new can enter. How can I teach you peace, when your cup is already overflowing?" This story may sound simple, but it holds a truth so often forgotten in our modern world. We're too full, too loud, too fast, too distracted, so much noise, so much chasing, and yet so little peace. We scroll through 1,000 images a day. We chase goals society handed us. We keep running, faster, harder, believing that somewhere, just ahead, we'll finally arrive. But let me ask you something, really ask you, why, in a world more connected than ever, are we lonelier than ever? Why, in an age of abundance, do our hearts feel so empty? Why, despite knowing more, do we understand less? These are not questions for philosophers in ivory towers. They are questions that follow us through every meeting, every scroll, every sleepless night. But over 2,500 years ago, under the shade of a Bodhi tree, one man sat in complete stillness, and he saw clearly. He did not preach a religion. He offered a path, not through dogma, but through direct experience, not through more, but through less noise, less craving, less illusion, simple truths. Timeless, transformative, true. In this video, we're going to walk through 5 powerful truths the Buddha taught, truths that sound simple, but carry the weight to change your entire life. If you really hear them, this is not a lecture, this is a journey, a return to what's real. What matters, a peeling away of all that's noisy, fake, and heavy, so that the quiet wisdom can finally be heard again. So take a breath, let your cup empty, let go, for just a moment, of all the striving, because what comes next might just change the way you see everything. We begin, where all wisdom begins, with the truth of impermanence. What if the reason we suffer so deeply is because we keep trying to hold on to what was never ours to keep? Let's find out, together, in Chapter 2, the truth of impermanence. Let's begin with a truth that every human being eventually faces, but very few are ever prepared for: impermanence. Nothing lasts. Not our youth, not our relationships, not our successes, our failures, our joys, or our heartbreaks. Everything changes. Everything fades, and yet, how much of our suffering comes from forgetting this simple fact? Let me tell you about Anna. She had the perfect life, or so it seemed, a loving husband, 2 beautiful children, a job she actually liked. She lived in a quiet suburb with trees that blushed gold in the fall. Everything was stable, predictable, safe. Then one Tuesday morning, without warning, her husband collapsed in the kitchen. A heart attack, gone in under 5 minutes. Just like that, everything changed. The silence that followed was unbearable. She kept replaying the night before, his smile, his laughter, the way he kissed her goodnight. She begged the universe to take her back, just for a moment, to the way things were. She was drowning in a storm of why. Why him? Why now? Why me? Weeks later, she sat across from an old monk who offered her no comforting lies, no cliches, just a single line: the cherry blossom is most beautiful because it falls. That moment cracked something open in her. She realized it wasn't unfair that things change. it's the nature of everything to change, it's our resistance to that truth. That creates the deepest suffering. Buddha called it anicca, impermanence. He didn't teach it to frighten us, he taught it to free us. You see, impermanence is not a curse, it's not a punishment, it's actually a blessing in disguise, because without impermanence, the seasons would never change, pain would never heal, wounds would never close, and we would never grow. It is because everything is fleeting, that every moment becomes so precious. The laugh of your child, the smell of your morning coffee, the way sunlight dances across your bedroom wall, none of it lasts, and because of that, all of it matters. But here's where we go wrong: we try to freeze time, we cling to youth, to people, to identities, to routines, we build entire lives around the illusion of permanence, and then we're devastated when things fall apart. But they were always going to fall apart, they were meant to, just like waves rise and crash, just like flowers bloom and wilt, just like clouds shift and disappear into blue sky, everything changes. Everything ends. But also, everything begins again. So what if, instead of resisting change, we bowed to it? What if we lived like the cherry blossom, fully open, fully alive, knowing we will fall, but blooming anyway? Imagine the freedom that would bring, the lightness. Next time you drink a cup of tea, feel its warmth, feel the comfort, and as you sip, gently remind yourself, this too will pass. Not to make you sad, but to make you present, because when we truly understand impermanence, we stop rushing, we stop clinging, we start living. And so we move now to the second truth: if everything changes, why do we suffer so deeply when it does? What is it in us that keeps reaching, grasping, wanting, even when we know we can't hold on? It's time to face the next truth on the Buddha's path, the one that unlocks the core of our pain, the nature of suffering. So now we understand, everything changes, everything fades, and everything passes. But let me ask you this: why does knowing that still hurt so much? Why do we ache when someone leaves? Why do we tremble at the thought of losing what we love? Why do we suffer, even when we know impermanence is part of life? The Buddha didn't shy away from this question. In fact, he faced it directly, without flinching, and what he discovered is something that every human heart, deep down, already suspects. Suffering is not the exception, it's the rule. When the Buddha was asked, "What do you really teach?" he answered with just one word, dukkha. It's often translated as suffering, but that word doesn't capture it fully. Dukkha means dis-ease, a deep discomfort with the way things are. It's that background hum of dissatisfaction, that quiet restlessness, that never quite there feeling. Let me tell you about Chris. Chris had everything people chase: a six-figure salary, a corner office, a beautiful wife, an apartment overlooking the skyline, and yet, every morning, he woke up with a weight in his chest. He couldn't explain it, he just knew, there had to be more than this. So he worked harder, upgraded his car, took fancier vacations, got more followers, more validation, but the more he chased, the more the emptiness grew. That is dukkha. It's not just heartbreak or grief or pain. It's the ache we feel even when life is going well. It's the subtle anxiety that creeps in when we get what we want, and still feel like something's missing. So where does this suffering come from? The Buddha pointed to three poisons at the root of it all. 1. Craving, tanha, the constant thirst for more. 2. Aversion, dosa, the deep resistance to what we dislike. 3. Delusion, moha, the ignorance of how reality truly works. Let's break that down. Craving says, if I just get this one thing, I'll finally be happy. But as soon as we get it, we want the next thing, and the next, and the next. It never ends. Craving turns the mind into a hamster wheel, always running, never arriving. Aversion says, this should not be happening. It's the war we fight against reality. We push away sadness, we hate pain, we try to numb, escape, deny, but what we resist persists. And delusion, that's the most dangerous one of all. It's the belief that we're separate, that things are permanent, that life should go how we want. Delusion is like a fog around the heart. We can't see clearly, so we keep walking in circles, wondering why we feel lost, But here's the most compassionate part of the Buddhist teaching: suffering is not punishment, it's a teacher. Every ache in our chest, every loss, every disappointment, every moment of restlessness, they're not signs that something is wrong with us, they're signs that we're human, and that we're still searching. Suffering, in Buddhism, is not failure, it's the beginning of awakening. Because once we truly see where our suffering comes from, we stop blaming the world, and start understanding the self. The Buddha didn't stop at diagnosing the problem, he also offered a cure. He gave us the path out of suffering, a path that doesn't ignore pain, but transforms it into wisdom. So what is that path? It begins with understanding the root cause of our craving. Why do we cling so desperately? Why do we reach for what we know won't last? The next chapter will take us right to the core of this longing, and help us see what lies beneath it. We now step into chapter 4, Craving and the Illusion of Control. So here we are, standing at the edge of suffering, peering into its roots, and what do we find? Craving, not just any craving, but a thirst so deep. It shapes every thought, every choice, every heartbeat, and the most haunting part, we don't even realize we're doing it. Let's pause here, because this is not about shaming desire. Wanting things, comfort, love, success, is human. The Buddha never said you must not desire, he said, be aware of how you relate to your desires, because there's one silent craving that lives beneath them all, the craving for control. Let me tell you a story. There was once a young woman named Emily. She was smart, kind, organized, by all measures successful. But she couldn't sleep. Every night, her thoughts raced with what ifs. What if I lose this job? What if he stops loving me? What if I fail? So she planned. She controlled every detail. She checked her phone 60 times a day. She feared uncertainty like a shadow in the dark, and still things slipped through her fingers. Her best friend moved away, her mother got sick, and despite doing everything right, life kept doing its thing, changing. You see, craving isn't just about wanting more, it's about trying to grip reality with a closed fist, to bend life to our will, to say, if I just get everything perfect, then I'll be safe. Then I'll be happy. But here's the thing. Life doesn't obey our to-do lists, and trying to control the uncontrollable is the fastest path to anxiety, disappointment, and burnout. The Buddha described this craving as tanha, a thirst that fuels the wheel of suffering. We chase pleasure, we avoid pain, we try to possess beauty, we cling to people, moments, emotions, as if they'll last forever, but they don't, they can't. Because life is movement, and control is an illusion. Let's get honest. How many times have you told yourself, when I get this promotion, then I'll relax. When I lose the weight, then I'll love myself. When everything finally settles down, then I'll start living. But peace doesn't wait at the finish line. It's not hiding behind the next achievement, it's here. Right now, but we're too busy reaching to notice. The Buddha taught that craving arises from misunderstanding reality. We believe we can own what was never ours to begin with. We believe we can make life behave. But nothing, not our bodies, our jobs, our loved ones, is truly in our grasp, and that truth. It's terrifying, which is why we crave control in the first place, because deep down, we fear letting go. But here's the great paradox: what we cling to most tightly is what causes the most pain, and what we fear losing was never ours to keep. Now imagine this: instead of clenching your fists, you opened your palms. Instead of resisting what is, you bowed to it. Instead of trying to control life, you started to dance with it. That is the first taste of liberation, not the absence of desire, but the absence of bondage. The journey now calls us deeper. If craving is born from illusion, what happens when we begin to see clearly? What happens when the fog lifts and we look at reality not through fear, but through wisdom? In the next chapter, we step into the eye of the storm, and learn to see the world not with resistance, but with radical clarity. We now turn to chapter 5, Seeing Through the Illusion, the Power of Insight. If craving is the fire, then insight is the water. It cools, it clears, it reveals. In the last chapter, we touched the pain of grasping, of craving certainty in an uncertain world. Now we ask, what if the problem isn't life itself, but the way we see it? Because here's the truth no one teaches us in school: most of what we suffer isn't real. It's a projection, a story, a trick of the mind. Let me explain. The Buddha called this Maya, illusion, a veil that covers the true nature of things. We don't see people as they are, we see them as we are, through wounds, through wants, through memories that haunt us. We don't see moments for what they are, we label them: good, bad, boring, beautiful, and then we suffer when they don't match our labels. Think of a movie projector. Your mind is the machine, your thoughts are the film, and life becomes the screen. But the movie isn't real, it's light and shadow, flickering frames. We react to a scene that doesn't exist, forgetting we're the ones projecting it. One day, a Zen student asked his master, "Why do I suffer so much?" The master replied, "Because you believe your thoughts." Just 6 words, but they carry the power of thunder. Let me share a story. There was a man who feared public speaking. He would avoid meetings, decline invitations, and miss out on life. Why? Because in his mind, he believed, if I speak, I'll embarrass myself, they'll laugh at me, I'm not enough. But one day, during a mindfulness retreat, he learned to pause. He didn't try to fix the thought, he didn't argue with it, he simply watched it. I'm not enough. He noticed how it came like a wave, and then faded away. He realized, if I can observe the thought, then I am not the thought. And just like that, a lifelong prison began to dissolve. This is the power of insight, not an intellectual idea, but a direct seeing, in knowing that, all things arise, all things pass, and none of it is you. The Buddha taught the 3 marks of existence. 1. Anicca, impermanence, nothing stays, not joy, not sorrow, not even the thoughts in your head. 2. Dukkha, unsatisfactoriness. Even pleasure, when clung to, leads to pain. 3. Anatta, non-self, there's no fixed I behind the curtain, just patterns, feelings, flow. It's terrifying at first, the ego panics, it wants solid ground, a story to cling to, but when you sit still long enough, you begin to feel the freedom in the flow, like drifting down a river, no longer fighting the current. When you truly see, there's no longer a need to fix everything. You stop arguing with the moment, you stop needing life to match your expectations, you begin to trust reality as it is, and in that surrender, is deep, unshakable peace. So what now? Seeing the illusion is one thing, but how do we live this insight? How do we embody it in daily life, at work, in relationships, in the chaos of the world? The answer lies not in theory, but in practice, not in escape, but in full engagement. With a heart that's wide open, we now step into the ground of true practice. Coming up next, Chapter 6, Living the Dharma, Peace in Everyday Life. You don't need a cave in the Himalayas to practice Buddhism, you don't need orange robes, you don't need to leave your family, your job, or your city. What you need is a shift in how you live, a turning inward, a slowing down, a way of walking through the world, without being swallowed by it. This is living the Dharma. The word Dharma doesn't just mean teachings, it means the way things are, the natural law, the truth under everything. And when we live in alignment with it, life doesn't become perfect, but it becomes peaceful. You can wash dishes mindfully, you can answer emails with compassion, you can sit in traffic and smile, because peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of awareness. Let me share a simple story. A woman once came to a Buddhist teacher and asked, "How can I become enlightened?" The teacher said, "Have you finished your laundry?" "No," she replied. "Then go home and do your laundry mindfully." At first, she laughed, but later, she understood. Spiritual awakening isn't found outside your life, it's found right in the middle of it. Think of your daily life. Every moment is a chance to return. Making tea becomes meditation, sweeping the floor becomes mindfulness, listening deeply becomes compassion. Here are 3 ways to live the Dharma in daily life. 1. Slow down. our culture worships speed. But wisdom moves slow. Try this: walk 10% slower today, speak 10% less, breathe 10% deeper. And notice how peace quietly returns. 2. Serve others. The Buddha said, if you light a lamp for someone else, it will also brighten your path. You don't need to start a charity. Sometimes, serving means holding silence when someone vents, smiling at the cashier, answering a child with your full presence. Compassion is not a grand gesture, it's how you show up in the ordinary. 3. Practice non-attachment. This doesn't mean indifference, it means loving. Without clinging, doing. Without obsessing, living. Without resisting change. Your job won't always fulfill you, people won't always understand you, life won't always follow your script, but when you flow with it, instead of fighting it, you discover a peace that no outcome can take away. There's a Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water, after enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Nothing changes, but everything changes, because you're no longer chasing peace, you're bringing it with you. You don't have to abandon the world, you just need to awaken within it, and that is true freedom. So as we prepare to close this journey, take one breath, place your hand on your heart, and ask yourself, what would it look like to live today as if it were sacred? Because it is, and you are, and life, when lived fully aware, becomes the greatest dharma of all. Next, we arrive at the gentle closing, a return to stillness, where we reflect on all that's been uncovered. Chapter 7, Returning to the Cup. As we come to the end of our time together, let's take one final moment. Imagine you're holding that cup of tea again, but this time, it's not about the tea, it's about the moment, it's about being present. The same way we began, we return. Remember how we started with a question, what is the ultimate truth? And we've discovered that the truth is simple, right here, right now, not in distant teachings, but in the very act of living, mindfully, fully, and with deep awareness. The tea is always ready, the present moment is always here, and the path of awakening, it isn't a destination, it's a way of living. So, take one last deep breath with me, feel the stillness. And as you exhale, release everything you thought you knew, because just like that cup of tea, all the answers are already within you. As you step away from this space, remember this: every moment is an opportunity to see more clearly, to love more deeply, to live with more presence. And if today's journey spoke to you, if you felt the call to dive deeper, to explore more of what it means to live the Dharma in your everyday life, we'd love for you to stay connected with us. If you haven't already, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, so you never miss out on more teachings and stories like these. Your support helps us grow this community of seekers. And together, we can create a ripple of peace and wisdom in the world. Feel free to leave a comment below. What was the most meaningful insight for you today? How do you live the Dharma in your own life? And, as always, we'd love to hear from you. Share this with someone who might benefit, and let's keep spreading these truths, one moment, one breath, one cup of tea at a time. So, until we meet again, remember, you already have everything you need. Peace is not far away, it's here, with you. Take care, and may your heart find peace, right where you are. Thank you for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Until then, stay mindful. Stay present.